Welcome to the latest Wax Ecstatic Pack Break. I'm your host, Matt Sammon. And on this program, we come across some interesting products. But on top of the interesting products, there are interesting players. And in this week's podcast, which will be coming out Friday, July the 30th, we're going to be taking a look at a very interesting league. Yes, the Senior Professional Baseball League, the SPBA, a league that lasted just 1 year, and it was a pretty interesting concept, but for numerous reasons didn't fly. Now, the 1 year that it did survive, which was during the winter of 1989 and 1990, there were baseball cards created. Why? Because in the winter of 1989 and 1990, there were baseball cards created about everything. Everybody was making baseball cards by then. So the Pacific Trading Card Company, which also had several other products out at that time, figured, why not? Let's do some SPBL baseball. And one of the great things about this particular set, it's a bargain bin beauty. You're right, you can find these. If you have a dealer that has them, like I have at one of my local shops here, you can find them in the bargain bin because there's not a ton of value in these. But there are some notable names. And in this podcast, we'll talk not only about this one-off set from a one-off league, but we'll talk a little bit about why it didn't work then, but could it work now? I am really intrigued on if a senior baseball league could work these days. So let's open up this pack of senior professional baseball cards. And we'll start with something that the Pacific people took from our good friends at Fleer. Yes, the logo sticker. Here, we've got the St. Pete Pelicans, and much like the Fleer stickers from the early 80s and even the 70s, the team stickers, the back had some part of a puzzle piece to it. So the St. Pete Pelicans, one of the better known teams. Now let's take a look at some of these legendary names here. We've got Lee Lacy. Love that uniform there. The Tropics. Now this is not Will Ferrell knocking the ABA Tropics. No, 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 no. As we see here, the Lee Lacy card features really no lines of stats, but a lot of text, which is interesting. You would think that a lot of lines of numbers would be preferred, but there's a little more narrative here, talking about when he played professionally, and in this example, using some of his time from the 1982 to 1984 stint with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, it also mentions here, and it's kind of hard to read, but Major League experience 16 years. That gives you the idea that even though you may not know anything about the Tropics, you'll certainly know about Lee Lacy. Now, as I said, this was not the Will Ferrell making fun of the ABA Tropics. This was the West Palm Beach Tropics, one of the many colorful names, and as you can see, uniforms. This is almost like if you took the Miami Dolphins uniform and turned it into a baseball card. Now, let's also take a look real quickly at the Lee Lacy card here. This was a very basic design, and this is one of the reasons why people weren't exactly flocking to buy the Pacific trading cards for Senior Professional Baseball League. This is very akin to what you would get from your Little League. You know, picture day with your Little League, you get the team photo, you get the individual photo, and one of those other options, if you talked mom and dad into it, was your own trading card. This is essentially the Little League trading card, where it's just a whole bunch of stars and a logo and your name and a pretty generic design here. Certainly shiny. I will say the card stock, pretty good for the time. Remember 1989, not everybody was in the white card stock. Upper Deck and Score were, but and Fleer and Donruss, but you know, the heavy hitters of the days were still using the gray card stock. So, you know, good card stock, a little off center, but again, a very Little League approach to it. Let's see who else we have. From the St. Pete Pelicans, Coach Tom Zimmer. That's right. Tom Zimmer. That name sounds familiar, doesn't it? And it also mentions how he was a coach with the St. Louis Cardinals, also a scout with the San Francisco Giants, yada, yada, yada. All right, we also have the big man, and depending on, which gossip magazine you read, he wasn't just big in height, he was big in other parts. The late Jim Bibby of the Winter Haven Super Sox. Who else we have here? Joe Hicks, a catcher for the Gold Coast Suns. Joe Hicks is damn glad to be there. We have Champ Summers, former Detroit Tiger, but the Fort Myers Sun Sox, almost like that screaming baseball. Here, I'll zoom in up here. That screaming baseball that was part of the Orlando Suns for many, many years. But the Sun Sox going with the then extremely popular Oakland A's color scheme. Pitcher Lowell Palmer of the Tropics. Palmer wearing the blue blockers. Definitely looks like most people's stepfather in that picture there. Roy Thomas of the St. Lucie Legends. Speaking of design, a very 1990s design. They were very much ahead of the curve, almost like the first edition of the Washington Nationals. We've got Gene Clines with this very, very suspicious look over his shoulder here with the Bradenton Explorers. One of our favorites from the Phillies with the Orlando Juice, Bake McBride. OJ. You see that? Look at that. That's when Florida actually had orange trees and you could make orange juice. Bake McBride. I love it. Wayne Krenchicki, another great name from the 70s and 80s here. And as you can see, Wayne's put on a few pounds since his retirement as second baseman with the Bradenton Explorers. And our last card, an action photo. Action. Gave me some 72 tops here. Jerry White with the Tropics. All right, now let's open up pack number 2 here. This is why this is fun. Not only because it's a defunct league, but... All right, here you go. The Senior Professional Baseball, the league logo. Very creative. A dot matrix printer in the 1980s probably making that. As for the puzzle piece, it's somebody's shoe. We'll never know. All right, let's look at the cards here. Oh, look at this. Even in the Senior Professional Baseball League cards, the dreaded manager card. Are you kidding me? Gates Brown, the manager for the Orlando Juice. Disco Dan Meyer. We talked about him when looking back at 77 tops several months back. There he is with the Bradenton Explorers. The dreaded baseball manager emeritus card. Dick Williams, the old master. Yes, the old Dick before he got in trouble with the law. Butch Benton, catcher for the St. Pete Pelicans. Also damn glad to be there. Another dreaded manager card, Ed Noddle, of the Winter Haven Super Sox. We've got a dreaded coach card. Boy, what a bum pack this is. Of the Gold Coast Suns, Pedro Ramos. Here we go. Back to the players. I was never so relieved to see a Rich Gale baseball card than I was right there. Alfie Rondon, first baseman for the Tropics. Walt Williams, pitching for the St. Lucie Legends, but holding a bat. The late AC, Al Cowens, there with the Bradenton Explorers. And our last card, Bob Galasso, a pitcher for the Orlando Juice. So here we've got an interesting array of cards. And like I said, not a bad effort. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Oh, not a bad effort. Yeah, nice little senior baseball logo. Cool little St. Pete Pelicans logo. And their primary logo was actually better than that. So it's a great idea, right? Former Major League Baseball players playing in a winter league. Kind of like the elderly USFL in baseball terms. Well, one of the reasons why the Senior Professional Baseball League didn't work, no offense to Lee Lacey or the hefty but smiling Wayne Krenchicki or anybody else in these 2 packs here. But you don't really get excited about these guys, do you? You know, here we are 30 years later, we're looking at them and going, oh, I remember that guy. But in 1989, 1990, are you going, holy cow, there's that Bob Galasso card I was looking for? No offense to Bob Galasso. He played a lot more in the major leagues than I did. Yeah, 3 years, according to this. But, you know, you didn't take this and put it in your Loctite card holder. No. So that's one of the many reasons why the Senior Professional Baseball League didn't get off the ground. There were a lot of other things out of the league's control. We'll talk about that and this very unique set. It's one of the bizarre ones, but it's one I'm glad I found in the bargain bin. I actually had my eye on a few packs on eBay not too long ago, so I'm glad I found it a little cheaper at the local store. But this will be our topic, not just the set, but the league. An interesting league that, I don't know, does something like this work in 2021? Maybe. We'll discuss. That's on our next podcast, again, this Friday, July 30th. It will be coming out via our home base at Audio Boom, but also all along all of our other regular locations for podcasts, including Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher, Blueberry, Google Play, Spotify, you name it. You can find it. It is Wax Ecstatic. I'm your host, Matt Sammon. Thanks again for watching this break.